Hi everyone, welcome back to another For Those Who Go video. This channel is where you learn and share skills about design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that's coming up, please like, share and subscribe for more. In this video, we'll be exploring Fastify. Fastify is a high-performance HTTP framework for Node.js. Fastify mainly focuses on speed. Here we'll learn on how to build a RESTful service using Fastify by creating a CRUD API, connect our Fastify app with Mongo Atlas, and explore some basic routing with Fastify. If you are also coming from an Express background, this won't be much of a deal to understand Fastify. Recently, Fastify has gained a lot of popularity due to its lightweight design. I'm personally using Fastify for the first time, and I was really encouraged to use framework because I came through this performance comparison table and benchmarking through the internet. Right now, I'm inside the Fastify documentation, inside benchmarks, and I can see a comparison of two other frameworks, which is a backend a Node.js framework, and I can see that Fastify offers 63,000 requests per second in comparison to other frameworks within some circumstances, I believe. So I guess this is pretty much fast. So they claim to be the fastest backend framework out there. You can take also the reference for with this particular screenshot that I have created here, which differentiate between the frameworks out there, Express, Happy, and Fastify, where Fastify has all the necessary things that we developers need. So, like routing, middleware, plugins, validation, hooks, decorators, logging, and async await support and request per second is around 36,000 right here. So this really shows that Fastify is really a promising framework to experiment and to implement in our projects. So in another State of JS 2020 survey, we can see here that Fastify has a third position where there is around 89% of developers voted on the satisfaction of Fastify users. So with this information, I totally believe that Fastify is totally a promising backend framework of choice. If you are wondering what framework you should use for your next new backend project, definitely Fastify can be a reliable choice for you. So let's get ahead and create a simple Fastify project. Let's bring up our terminal here, and I'm using iterm from a terminal. And let's navigate to our desired directory, and inside here I want to create a folder and call it Fastify API React. Hit enter and cd into that particular directory that we created, and inside here we will create another directory and call it server, because we will be consuming this particular API inside of our client with React. And inside of our server, I want to initialize a Fastify project with npm init Fastify. And meanwhile, after we have initialized our Fastify project here, I want to open this up in VS Code. But for that, let's cd one step back and then open this up in VS Code. And let's expand a bit. And inside of our server, we have a pre-configured Fastify project for us. And if we take a look at the documentation and getting started here, we can see here npm I fastify -save is another way of initializing a Fastify project. But with this, you just add Fastify as your dependency, and you further need to create other stuffs like listen to the port and write everything yourself. But whereas with the init command that we just did here, we helps us to add other dependencies which we need, which are Fastify plugins, Autoload, Sensible, and Fastify CLI. If we take a look at app.js, we have the Autoload for our plugins and also Autoload for our routes, which generally means we need to create a file or a folder. We have a folder root here. We need to create a file, and inside there we can write anything that's regarding the routes. and it's auto loaded with this auto load plugin, so that we don't need to import it or register it inside of our app.js file. So this is pretty much handy. Same goes to plugins. If we want to create a plugin, we just create a file here and it auto loads the file inside of our app.js, so that we don't need to register the routes and plugins that we create. All right, that's what the basic difference between the command here and the command that we just did. So the good thing about this particular setup is we can also create .env, and it will detect the .env file by default, and by default the port runs on 3000, but our front-end code runs in 3000 port, so we will have to change that one. So to change that one, we will cd into the server, and inside here we'll just add npm I, because I want to make sure that all the dependencies has been added. And after this is installed, we will create .env file and called a port here, and assign a port of 5000, and close this one. Let's wait for this to finish. Okay, then if we run npm start, then we can see here that our port has been successfully in 5000, which is what we wrote inside of env right here. So which means that our .env is auto detected, so we don't need any Fastify env environment to configure our environment inside of our Fastify. It comes out of the box. Okay, it also supports reloading. If we save, then we must have reloading right here, which we'll pretty much see later on. So after all of these things has been added, we will now add further dependencies that we need for our demo project right here. The other dependencies that we will be using in this project would be boom. So this is basically the error handling part, where we throw out error, and also we will be connecting our Fastify project with MongoDB. So we will as Mongoose as our dependency right here. So after these two dependencies has been added, we can successfully go ahead and create our endpoints. So let's test our endpoint, which has been pre-configured for us right here, which is example. And if you take a look, we can see here that it's fastify.get, which takes request and reply, same as we have in Express, which is request and response. And we can rename this to anything that we need. And this just returns, this is the next example. Let's first spin up our server and see that this particular API is running or not. So we can hit some curl commands to see it in action. So we can just do curl and localhost 5000 and just slash. I think it's example, because we have an example folder right here. As we discussed before, it's auto-loaded, so it's example and slash. If we hit enter, and we can see here that our response is also logged by default, so we don't need to add any dependencies for logging out the response like Morgan inside Express. So as you can see here, this is the example, so which means that our app is successfully running and it's returning this particular string right here. All right, let's go ahead and create some more further routes and schemas and modules as well. Before we start creating our schemas and models, we want to connect our Fastify app with MongoDB. So I've headed towards mongodb.com, and I'm inside MongoDB Atlas. So you can create a new project right here, but I have already created my project here, and it's called Notes app. And if I click on it, and it will show me this particular dashboard where I can go to connect and connect our particular application with MongoDB. So for that one, I will go and hit on connect to your application. And here we have the connection string that's needed. So you can grab this string and place it inside of your .env file. So I will go to my .env file, and inside here I want to bring the strings that I have already generated, and I want to add here. So I will be adding these strings behind the scene. So I will close this for now. After adding those strings inside of your .env file, we can further proceed with creating our endpoints. After we have created a new cluster inside of MongoDB Atlas, we need to connect our application with MongoDB. So for that one, we have already installed Mongoose, which you can find here inside of the package.json file, and we will have to import Mongoose here inside of our application. So I will just import Mongoose right here, and also add a try-catch block where we'll be connecting our application with MongoDB. So I've just added try-catch block where we added our .connect for the string that we added inside of our .env file, and also you need to pass this object right here in order to work this properly, right? So, and if there is any error, then we console log the error. After this has been done, we are pretty much okay with, to go ahead with our application. So let's save this one, and let's also create some of the folders that we need. So inside of our server here, I will create another folder and call it controller. So inside of our controller right here, I will just add a note controller, because we are making a kind of a note-taking app where it would be a basic CRUD operation where we will add notes, create notes, delete notes, and edit notes from our React project in the front end later on. So I will just add node controller.js. Also, meanwhile, let's go ahead and add a pretty much use strict mode right here, and we will come to this later on. So inside here, let's create another one, which is models. And inside of our models, we need to create another file and call it mynotes.js. So inside of mynotes.js, we will create our schema right here. So it will be a basic schema where we will first need to import a Mongoose and schema first of all, and we also need to create a schema, which means what kind of data are we dealing with. So here is the schema, a simple schema that we have created, which is my note schema, which consists of title, description, and a date, and also a timestamp. So this is schema. So we need to export this particular constant that we created with model.exports. And all right, so after this has been done, it just basically says that our schema can be referred as notes, and it's my note schema that we added here. So after this has been done, let's close this. This is pretty much done. So we have created our models and added the schema inside here, inside of our controller right here. Let's import first of all the nodes that we created before. So we need the node schema. Also, let's import the boom library that we installed before. It's for logging out the errors that we have in the endpoints that we create. So first of all, let's get all nodes endpoints. So this is simple if you are pretty much comfortable working with Express application. And to get all nodes, we need to create an endpoint here. We will definitely go inside of routes right here, and right here we are just basically waiting for all the nodes and returning all the nodes for now. So this is be our get all nodes endpoint, and let's also go ahead and add our get nodes by ID. This would generally take in the ID, which comes from request params.id, and we will find that particular ID inside of our nodes and return that particular single node, right? So if there is any error, we will make the use of library boom and boomify the error. And then let's add another controller right here. So this particular endpoint returns the nodes added. So we will add a node to our database with nodes.save. So .save is the method that's provided by Mongoose. So and this adds a single node inside of our database. And if we need to update a single node inside of a database, then we need this particular snippet right here, which just says we have the ID, which comes from request params ID, and we need to find and update that particular ID, because this is generally the edit part, where we need to edit that particular node that we have inside of our database. And we also added new is good true, because we need this as well. And we made the use of this particular method, find by ID and update, which is self-explanatory. It finds that particular ID sent from request params ID, and um, just saves it into the database. So now let's also add our controller for deleting a node. So for deleting a node, you need the ID, obviously, because we are not deleting every node inside of our database, but deleting a single node inside of a database. ID can be taken from request params.id, and nodes deleted would be nodes, and we made the use of this particular method provided by Mongoose, and then we passed in ID. After that one, we just delete that particular ID if we find that particular ID inside of our database. If not, we'll throw this particular error. Okay, we are pretty much done with our controller right here. It's a basic endpoints, simple CRUD endpoints. So after the controller and model has been done, let's move on to our routes, right? So let's close this. And inside of our routes here, we do have an example right here, which is already an endpoint, which is created right here for us. And in the similar way, as we discussed earlier, we can just create a new folder inside of our routes, and we will call that particular folder as notes. And inside of our notes here, we will create index.js file. And we want to firstly import the controller, and also we want to make the use of use strict mode. And if we take a look at the other example of routes right here, we have as basically enclosed inside the module.export, and which is a asynchronous function which takes in Fastify and options OPTS as a parameter. And let's copy this one and let's take it inside of our note here. And if we head on towards our documentation of Fastify, or we can also take a reference of Fastify cheatset of devhints.io. Inside here, we have a shorthand declaration of the routes, how we can make our shorthand declaration, which is just fastify.get, rather than writing fastify.route and registering this particular route inside of our index.js file, which would be quite a little bit time consuming. So we will just make the use of shorthand declaration. And also you can take a reference of how we can handle the request and response, or in a sense reply. And also we will come to this plugin section where we will make the use of plugins and create a simple code generator plugin. So let's head back, and I want to add our route here. So as we have discussed here, we are making the use of shorthands route right here. So let's add our endpoints right here. So this is what our endpoints look like. This is basically taking a reference to the controller that we created before inside here. So let's split it to the right. As you can see here, we have this get all nodes taken from nodes controller, which is get all nodes, get single node, add new node, update node, and delete node, which is added inside of our route. And it's get, post, get, put, and delete methods that we have added. And with this, we are pretty much done with creating our basic endpoints with Fastify. And let's save this one, and let's also save this one. And let's try to use curl for the first time to get all the nodes. Probably we haven't added any nodes yet. So first of all, let's add some nodes inside of our DB and check whether our endpoints are working or not. So to check our endpoints, I'm bringing here Insomnia, but you can check your endpoints with any of the tools available out there. Even you have some extensions in the marketplace inside of VS Code where you can find to test your endpoints. So first of all, let's hit on get all nodes. I've already added the endpoints right here. So let's go to get all nodes and hit a send request. And as you can see here, we get a successful response of empty array, which means that we haven't added any nodes inside of our DB. So let's go ahead and post a note. Inside here, I've added title, description, and date, which is the same schema that we created inside here, which is inside of the modals here. So this is title, description, and date. And we are sending down this same thing here as a JSON payload. And inside of our headers, it's application JSON. I think we can send our nodes here. And I think we have successfully added this particular node inside of our DB. So this is another title. Let's remove this one and add this another, and hit a send, and we have added another one. So and let's go ahead and get all nodes. So let's hit send, and bingo, we have the two nodes that we have added just now has been sent as a response to us. So we have already posted the node and get all nodes, and let's go ahead and copy this particular ID that we have here and go to get one, and let's change this particular ID to this one, and let's hit send. And yeah, we get the response here of the same ID that we passed in. So let's go ahead and delete a node. So let's paste that particular ID that we copied before and hit on send. And if we go to get all nodes, then we must see just one node, right? So if we hit send and we just get just one node, which is awesome, which says that our endpoints are pretty much configured correctly and we are working perfectly fine. So now let's go ahead and create some plugins. So we'll be just creating a simple plugin inside of our Fastify app here. So before moving on to plugin, the thing that you may have noticed here is we haven't registered any of the routes inside of our app.js file. Neither we have registered any controllers nor modals, anything. It's because as discussed earlier, we have this particular package called autoload, which autoloads all the plugins and all the routes that we add inside here. So it works the similar way as Next, Nux, or any SSR frameworks available out there. So this is pretty much cool, right? So we don't have to import anything and it's auto-loaded right there. So now let's go ahead and create our plugins. To create our plugins, I'll create a new file here and call it code.js. So inside of our code.js, we will take a look at other plugins that has been used here. We'll just copy this one and take this code inside here, and inside here we want to get rid of this particular thing. And inside of model.export fp we have Fastify and options, and we won't be using that opts, so that's why I added underscore there. And we have pretty much everything is fine. So now let's go ahead and add some random codes here. So I will just copy some random codes that I have here and just paste in here. So these are just random codes that I picked from the internet, and this consists of totally cool programming codes out there. So let's add another function where it takes in this particular thing right here and uh, spits out the random index of it. So this particular function right here takes a parameter and it just takes the code dot length and spits out a single code. So this particular function right here spits out a single code that we have here, and we can further add this particular codes inside of our here with the help of dot decorate method like this, so that we can uh, register this particular plugin inside of our app. So everything inside of Fastify that we use is a plugin, and we can also take a reference on how we can create a simple plugin from the documentation as well. So taking a look at the plugins right here, and as you can see here, we may see ASM support, yeah, creating a plugin. So we can see here we have the Fastify.decorate, which helps us to create a simple plugin. So we are obviously making the use of .decorate function, and this is how we can also require another plugin inside of another plugin. So it's all just plugins, and importing the plugin inside of Fastify generally called registering a plugin. So we are using this particular dot register to register a plugin, and dot decorate to decorate our app with a plugin. And for our coach here, I think everything is fine. And we have made the use of decorate. And obviously we need to make the use of dot register method inside of our app. So we will go to routes, and inside of our routes here, we'll make the use of this particular route that we see here. So inside here, inside of our root files here, we want to make this endpoint, which is just slash, and I want to rename it to API slash codes. So this may not be a great endpoint that we named here, but anyway, let's add request and let's rename it to res, because so inside here I want to make the use of the plugins that we created, which can be accessed with Fastify.code, because we added code here. So decorate, then this particular string that we passed can be accessed inside of our routes here, which is inside of a root route. So inside here I want to rename this to Rick and res, because it would be really handy just to name it somewhat similar like express. But and we can access this particular thing right here with dot code, and everything that's inside of this constant q can be just be random code that we generated. So I will just add just make a tweak to this one, and we will rename this particular endpoint to slash API slash codes, and here we have response.send this particular code that we generated. Okay, so after this is done, we can test our endpoints inside of our curl here as well. So if you guys don't know what is curl, then you can take a reference to this particular doc right here, which is curl.se. This is simply a command line tool and library for transferring data with URLs since 1998. So it's really great to know that these kind of things exist. Anyway, So I will just skip that topic for now. And here, let's add the curl that we are uh, looking for, which can be accessed with this particular thing right here, which is curl localhost 5000, which is the port that we are currently running, and slash API slash code is the path of our route. So if you hit enter, then we can see here route get API not found status 404. Okay, let's see why is that. Now it's working fine because I have to restart the server, but after I restart the server, then if I hit curl to this particular command, then we can see here that we have successfully generated a random code. By this way, you can further create your additional plugins needed inside of our Fastify application. So basically, this is it. So in our next video, I suppose we will consuming this API that we created inside of our React app. So guys, in this video, we understood and learned about some of the basic implementation of CRUD with Fastify. We just scratched some of the basics of Fastify. You can explore the doc and implement your next project with this super cool fast framework. And thank you so much for watching my videos. If you guys want to learn more about design and development stuffs, please like, share, and subscribe for more with a click down below. I'll be trying to make more better videos. See you in the next one.